It's the same, but just a little bit different. Same Bonanza, new interior. Let's talk about it. Okay, here's what you need to know. This is my 1963 Beechcraft Bonanza Model P35. It's got 260 horsepower. It's got about 900 hours on the engine. It's got an IO 470. And when I bought it a year ago, the interior was red. And there was nothing wrong with that. I just decided at some point that I was going to change that interior to a color that was more me. I worked with a company called Generation Global, got some samples, took them around the world, decided exactly which one I wanted, reached back out to them, gave them some measurements, they cut me an interior, shipped it to me, and I did the rest of the work myself. The sidewalls came out, took the seats out, stripped everything off the seats, put new foam on, wrapped it in leather, installed new sidewalls that happened to be made out of vinyl, and now we have an airplane that looks like this. Let me go to the airplane and tell you a little bit more of the story. Bought this airplane about a year ago, got it flying at the end of December or early January 2025, so earlier this year. And so far I've put about 90 hours on this airplane. But in the past 8 hours, we've been flying in style, which is what you're seeing right here. We've got an interior that was provided or sold to me, not provided, made by a company called Generation Global. Now, Generation Global has been my partner through this upholstery change on the airplane for several months now. And it all began when I sent an email to them. They replied and said, yeah, we'd love to help you out with your airplane project. We just have never done a P35 Bonanza, so it'd be a little bit difficult for us to provide you with a kit that fits. And I said, no problem. I'm a nerd, I'm an engineer. I'm going to provide you with dimensions and drawings for you to be able to provide me a kit and future people a kit for the Beechcraft Bonanza Model P35. Here's a picture of one of the images or one of the models that I sent over to Generation Global. The dimensions that you're seeing in this picture that I'm going to put up on the screen are from my airplane after I took a 3D scanner and scanned the interior of the airplane to get the best measurements possible. And what that led to was an interior that just fit. It just fit. There are two areas that don't quite perfectly fit, but you'd never be able to see them. They're behind my left leg, which I'm not going to show because that gets a little bit awkward. It's just an area where there's probably a 1/4 inch overlap between the panel in the back and the panel in the front. I'm sure I could adjust things a little bit better, but I don't want to push my luck. And then the same thing on the right side over here by the co-pilot's right leg, which I'm also not going to show to you, but it's just down here behind the seat, which you'll never see. There is also about a 1/4 inch gap between where the seat stops, or the front part of the upholstery stops, and where the back part of the upholstery starts. So you'll never see those two gaps. Everything else fit essentially perfectly. The armrests fit great, the door panels fit great, baggage and main entry door, and then the seats. The seats fit perfectly. There's even a little embossed Beechcraft logo right here under my hand. That is just perfect for what I wanted on this airplane. So, was it difficult? No, actually it wasn't that difficult. The hardest part was getting all of the old adhesive off of the seats in preparation for the new adhesive on the new seats. So it really wasn't that difficult. Would I do it again for this airplane? Yeah, if I had a kit, I totally would. Realistically, if I had only focused on the upholstery, I could have gotten it done in 1 week, working 2 hours a day. I'm pretty confident about that. I did the upholstery on the Arrow. I had someone redo the seats and the side panels, and it took me a little bit longer to put it all back together than it did with this airplane. This airplane is actually pretty easy to get the upholstery out and then get new upholstery in. So knowing what I know now, I could probably do this entire upholstery job in 2 weeks working an hour a day, or 1 week working 2 or 3 hours a day. Now I have a full-time job and other responsibilities, a full-time wife, a full-time mom, a full-time brother, a full-time desire to eat cake and candy. So I have other things in life to do. And so I can't always dedicate the amount of time that I'd want to dedicate to doing stuff like this. But we did it. We totally did it. And it turned out perfectly fine. I used a SEM paint, spray paint, to paint the exposed areas of trim, like this white that you're seeing back here. That's rattle canned. I just taped off the entire airplane and then went with a rattle can design to get that done. Masked off the windows. Didn't do the best job. I've got some touch-ups I want to do, but for the most part, it's where I needed it to be. So the upholstery and the interior came together very, very, very well. The carpets I made myself, the back carpets, and then I had Airtex send me a carpet for the front of the airplane, the only place that you'd ever really see. But I hand cut the carpets that are in the back. They don't look the best, but they will serve the purpose to add a little bit of style and protection to the airplane. So the headrests are on, the carpets are in, the trim is painted, the placards are on. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, or the missing elephant in the room, the headliner. I just could not make up my mind on what I wanted to do with the headliner. And it also took me a while to get these shoulder harnesses, these BAS inertia reel shoulder harnesses done. So we left the headliner off for a while, and there's now a bug in the airplane. Not a Avionics bug, an actual bug. And I just want to guide him outside. There he goes. Excellent. So it took us a while to get those shoulder harnesses done. So that took up a little bit of time in the project, but it also had me keep the headliners off until all that work was done. And then by the time I was ready to put the headliners on, if I had just gone in with the existing headliners, they would have looked really bad compared to the rest of the airplane. So we left the headliners off, and now I'm struggling to decide what material or what color to do the headliners. I've picked a material that has a pattern. I've gotten some upholstery foam. It has information on it about its burn certificates, or its burn suitability for a Car 3 airplane, which I'm pretty comfortable with, and my A&P is pretty comfortable with. So I will now try to upholster the headliner myself. I've never done this before, but I've watched several YouTube videos and stayed in a Holiday Inn Express last night. So I should be able to get it done. It should be fine. It won't look super professional, but it doesn't need to. This is a 60-year-old airplane. It's an old airplane that I'm just adding a few modern touches to. And I'm not trying to make it so nice to the point where I'll never want to fly it or never want to throw something in the back, like a car seat like we did in one episode, or take it into places where I have mud coming in the airplane. I want to be able to use my airplane the way I want to use my airplane. So we're going to do a nice headliner job, and then add an LED strip to light up the instruments. I don't fly at night very often, so that's been on the bottom of the priority list. But that is where we are right now. Let me turn this around and show you the instrument panel. Here is the instrument panel. Let's light it up. Let me turn my rotating beacon off just to save some battery power. And turn the floodlights up. So most of the stuff you'll recognize, we have reused most of this, right? So attitude indicator, HSI, airspeed indicator, turn and bank, the clock, altimeter, VSI, manifold pressure, RPM, the STEC 50, the JPI, the autopilot test switch. All this stuff we have left on the airplane, but we have now added this, which is a Garmin GTN 750. I just bought a Flightstream 510, which is giving the GTN 750 Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, so I can use it like a Sentry or a Stratus, where it will stream the ADS-B and GPS position, so that's all good. This was existing in the airplane before. It's the GMA 350C. That gives me Bluetooth and split comms and all kinds of cool features. It even has the playback feature where it will play back a few seconds of the previous transmissions in case you missed that transmission. There we go. We added this thing down here, which is the Garmin GTR 205. It is a comm. It has no nav features because I figured the GTN 750 with its nav features and RNAV and everything else would be enough for navigation and guidance. So that's just a comm, saved us a little bit of money. This was in the airplane already, the GTX 327. Had to get it sent out to get updated. The firmware was old, so I got it updated at a facility, Garmin facility, an avionics shop. And now I can tune, frequencies up here and it will appear down here, or I can do the same thing down here. If I press VFR down here, the Garmin up top gets information from down there. Hidden behind this panel is what's called a GDL88. It is the ADS-B in and out for this airplane. It's a little box, a little comm unit that's talking to this unit for GPS position, and then the transponder down there, and it's sending out my ADS-B signal and then receiving ADS-B in, so I can see traffic on my screen. You won't see anything right now because there's no one taxiing around, but you'll see traffic on here. Oh, there's some traffic right there rolling down the runway. You'll also be able to zoom out on here as we fly and see weather, FISB weather, so you'll get essentially a radar representation of weather on there. Another jet departing. So that is going to improve my capabilities in this airplane quite a bit, improve safety, improve situational awareness as I'm doing my instrument reading. There's that airplane that just took off. And we, you have the traffic page where you can, get an idea of where traffic is around you and what they're doing. So there you go. You can go back to the map. So yeah, that's the whole new avionics stack with the GDL88 that's back there. And now that I have the Flightstream 510, I can use it to send the flight plan that's on here to my iPad, or send the flight plan that's on my iPad to the GTN 750. So it's like magic now. It's so many different ways. I can just use my iPad right here, send the flight plan, see my traffic, see my weather, all on the iPad or on the GTN 750. It's mega capability. And you could do the same thing with the GTN 650, which is a little bit less expensive than this unit. I paid a little over $10,000 for this top unit right here. And then I sold my Garmin 530 to offset some of the costs. So out of pocket for this unit, I think I was somewhere close to like $6,000. And by out of pocket, I mean a PayPal payment plan that I'm still paying for this thing because I didn't have the money to just buy it cash. Do not follow my advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm actually really bad with money. I'm just showing you what's capable, and I would rather enjoy my life and have these great tools right here as I'm flying across the country to come meet some of you all. So yeah, this is the new instrument panel. There's the new upholstery. Oh, all the placards, I made all of those to match what is in the AFM and what came out of the airplane before. So all of the placards and all of the wording is what's legally required to be on this serial number and this model of airplane, including the do not rely on the fuel flow instruments to determine the fuel levels. It's equipped with an electronic ignition system, no smoking, fasten your seatbelts. And then I added this one because you can add whatever you want on here as long as the required stuff is on there. I just said only the pilot latches the door. So we all know what happens when you don't have a properly latched door. Go look up that video on the channel. So the annunciator was existing in the airplane. It's now hooked up to the GTN 750. I have put my reference speeds over here, rotate speed and climb out speeds, including my minimum maneuver speed. So I'm saying in the traffic pattern, I'm never going to be slower than 85 knots. That's what this is saying. I'm never going to be slower than 85 knots. And when I'm approaching landing, I'm going to limit my bank angle to 30 degrees. I just know that in my head, but 85 knots gives me tons and tons of margin, flaps up or flaps down, to maneuver in the traffic pattern safely and not end up stalling or spinning my airplane inadvertently. So that is my safety speed, and I just picked that. I put that there. It's not a speed that shows up in the AFM, but that's a restriction and limitation that I'm putting on myself, and you can do that too if you wanted to. One of the other big cool things is I put both the before takeoff and before landing checklists right on the instrument panel. Those are placards that I made at home with the exact list from the AFM. And one more thing on the before landing is check my brakes to make sure that I have brake pressure. But I put them here because every time you fly, when you're on the ground, when you're in cruise, you've got time to pull out your plastic checklist. And that is right here behind my back. It's like right here. I can read this, I can take my time, I can pull it off. But in the heat of the moment, when ATC says you're cleared for takeoff and you just need a quick reference, there it is on your panel. When ATC says cleared for landing and you've got other things going on, you're setting up your approach, you're briefing your approach, you're briefing your landing, you're doing all kinds of other stuff, and you just need to know this stuff right here to be safe. There's your quick reference. You don't have to pull anything else out. I also put up here, because I had empty real estate or extra real estate, my best glide speed, maneuver speeds, and my 2 AFM settings that I like to keep track of, 65% and 75% power. So both of those things are there. Speeds are here, more speeds up here. I'm just using the real estate to help me out in the heat of the moment. So that is what we have going on. Simon thinks I should paint or have these yolks powder coated. I kind of like them white. I think it's kind of Beechcraft-ish to have them white, but maybe in the future I might have them wrapped, or I'll 3D scan them and then do like a rubber overlay that looks like leather or something. I don't know. Some cool project in the future might be coming for those. But yeah, here's the new digs. It's getting a little bit late outside, a little bit dark, but here's just the time I had to come and show you all what was going on with the airplane. And I'll do a video with lots more footage of all the work we had to do to get to this point, especially with the upholstery. I didn't do too much in terms of the avionics because it was really easy to do the avionics. Simon wired it all up at home and came out here in one day, and we just ran wires, and maybe 2 or 3 days it took to do it all, but it worked the first time we powered it up, so I'm pretty happy about that. Okay, well, thanks for hanging out. It is this dark now, but hopefully the camera's still doing a fair enough job. Go out and make sure that your neighbor is doing okay. Go check on your neighbor, especially if it's an elderly neighbor. Check on your neighbor. Make sure that they are doing okay, especially with all the craziness that's going on in the world right now. Check on them, make sure they've got enough to eat, make sure they are getting good sleep, make sure that their lawn person showed up and they've got a nice cut grass moving into the fall, and tell them not to burn trash in their backyard. Burn wood or something that smells a lot better so you can enjoy it too and get into the fall season and fall spirit. Okay, that's enough for now. Thanks for hanging out. I'll catch you guys later.